Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ukulele on the Ground podcast. My name is Aldrine Guerrero, joined by Mr. Aaron the Voice Nakamura. Say what's up, Aaron.
What's up?
Mr. Kahai, the legend Fergan. Say what's up, Kahai.
What's up?
So here on the Ukulele on the Ground podcast, we answer any and all of your questions via email, via UU Plus, via U Plus forum, whatever you guys, or however you guys manage to send us some questions. We'll try to answer them as best as we can. I'll try to answer it as best as I can, then these two guys will put in their 2 cents and we'll come up with a nice answer just for you of whatever the best that these three minds can do, you know? So it's not perfect, it's not foolproof, Kahai, right?
Yeah.
Can you like list the stuff that we were wrong
on? We don't have the whole hour.
Because we have not been. No. Because we're never wrong, Kahai.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you're supposed to say.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yep. Never wrong. Yep.
No, we're wrong all the time. And even just like last week, I did like a public apology, like on a video that I did on my own channel. I'm like, I'm sorry I did that. That was really bad of me as your teacher to do as I say, not as I do, or whatever, you know, last week.
You want to do another, what is it, like, because there's one podcast called Low G's and Apologies, I think.
Okay.
Or High G's and Apologies.
Is that an ukulele podcast?
It's one of our podcasts, yeah.
Oh, okay,
that
okay.
I name. And
issue like a official apology.
well, no, for that one I had you make a sad face and I used that as a thumbnail. You want to just do another, get that out of the way?
No, that should have been for last week when I actually made the thing.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Well, you know, however you guys manage to get questions to us, we'll try to answer it as best as we can. That's basically how this works. If there's no questions, we'll just kind of talk, and you know, we'll talk about ukulele. We'll talk about whatever comes in mind. I don't know why I'm doing this. Like I'm kind of antsy today. I'm like leaning this chair, and I've almost fallen twice now. I don't know why. Must be the ice cream that I just had. But yes,
Sugar.
yeah. Old Aldi is all sugared up today, so it's gonna be a good one. It's gonna be a gooder, guy. It's gonna be a gooder, as Mike Hader would say. It's gonna be gooder.
Okay.
So, what's our first question, Kahai?
So Sue had she kind of noticed something, and she was wondering if it's for a specific reason.
Yeah.
And she said, I hope I'm not being overly observant, but I've noticed during the play-alongs, sometimes Aldrine strums with his pointer finger and the other fingers curled in. Other times he's strumming with his pointer and the other fingers are straight but relaxed. Is this intentional to create different sounds?
Okay, that's a good question, but really, it's just whatever flavor that I'm feeling that day. Honestly, like it's not about how to make different sounds out of it. Sometimes I feel that like I'm trying to like overcompensate to show the audience exactly what I'm doing. So there are some times where like I kind of think that the strumming pattern might be a little bit much for people. So in order for them to kind of see it clearer, I curl my fingers in so that they can see the direction that my pointer fingers are going. So if I loosen up the fingers, it just kind of looks like this. And we always get that like, well, what's a strumming pattern or whatever that you're doing. So a lot, more often nowadays, I try to open it up because we now kind of went away with from the era of strumming patterns, so I don't necessarily need to showcase where exactly my finger is pointing all the time. So, but naturally, I play it super open like this. There is one technique that I open the hands kind of like almost always. So whenever I do like a fast picking, this like the faster the picking goes, like almost like the stiffer my fingers get, because I kind of have to like brace the hand so that the wrist, for fast strumming. So when I'm doing, I just released a video today where I did so like this kind of goes up. So I'll show it to you, like slower. So this tends to kind of straighten up and almost not freeze, but like just get stiff. So that this, because I'm moving it so fast, that this position of my pointer finger kind of needs to always hit it nice and clean. So if it's more on the loose side, I might hit it with my other fingers. I want just my pointer finger to hit that, so it coincides with the way that my wrist is turning. So if I don't freeze that up, and I hit it with other fingers, it's not gonna come out as clean as I would like to. So that does tense up a little bit, but that's still more of an open. So this is kind of my my regular strum. But then when I start doing the it tends to kind of like
get the fingers out of the way.
Yeah, get the fingers out of the way, exactly, because I don't want them to you know, to hit the strings and create a totally different rhythm than I was trying to do with, you know, with whatever strumming that I'm doing. Now, there is times where I do kind of close it up a little bit more. The other time that I do that is if it's kind of a chunk heavy song. If it's a chunk heavy song, curling your fingers in will make that chunk just a little bit more chunkier. Okay, so like I close it in a little bit, but not like close like this where, you know, I would do that kind of strum. It would be closed in the sense it's kind of like this. So what this does is it allows my more fingers, I'll show it to you from this angle here, more fingers to hit the, you know, to hit the strings for a chunkier chunk. And I think we've talked about this in the past. Because if it's just a one finger and I did the chunk, it can still happen, but a chunky chunk is this right here. So you probably see me opening up, you know, or closing my hand if it's a chunk heavy song. So something like that would keep my fingers close, because if I had it kind of loose open and then just kind of like open and close it like the entire time, it just doesn't make sense. So for me to you know, to get that ready for the chunk, I tend to close it up. So there's it. Oh, sorry. So it is like situational, you know, where like depends on the situation, depends on the song that I'm playing, is if I'm going to be playing with an open or closed or closed over this, because it's not closed. Like you don't see me strumming like this unless like I was making a point, like I said, you know, or like you really needed to see the up and down so that you could follow the strumming pattern. But since we've gone away with that, more often you'll see me with open hands.
Yeah. And so for her, if she's like worrying about like, should I do it like one way or the other, is like just do what's comfortable to you.
Yeah, just whatever's comfortable. Whatever you feel, you know, like really those are my reasonings. So there's a reason why I do, you know, I do those things. But for the most part, whatever, you know, whatever gets it done, whatever gets the job done. Like, as long as it sounds good, that's really it. If it sounds good, if it feels good, if it feels comfortable, that's how you do it.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kahai.
Well, we can just go to the next question.
Okay, next question.
I don't know. Do we have anything else to say about that, or
no? Did you get a haircut, Kahai?
Yeah.
Looks good, man.
Thanks.
Everyone should see it. It's awesome.
Okay. You're the only person who notices my haircuts.
Hey, you exist, Kahai. I notice you. Yeah. You know.
Well, I think that's because I mostly go home and I mostly come here to work. So, that's why.
So your parents don't notice when you cut your hair. Do you get your hair cut professionally or by your parents?
I have an auntie who cuts hair professionally, so yeah, she does it.
She did a great job. You look very handsome.
Okay.
Okay, next.
This one is from Jim, and he's asking about the chord pattern in Autumn Leaves. And so he said that the chord pattern is like a regular G, an F sharp, back to G, and then a B diminished. So, and he has a hard time getting from that G to that B diminished. So I think he was asking if there's some way to.
Is it B diminished or is it C diminished? Is it 2-3-2-3?
Oh yeah,
C
diminished.
C diminished.
Sorry.
C diminished. Okay.
Or he said B7 flat 9,
which is the same thing, right? I think.
Yeah. Okay, with a B7, that would be the 9. Yeah, flat 9. Yeah. Okay, so how do you go from G, F sharp to the C diminished? Okay, so we got this G, we got this F sharp right here, and we got this B diminished or C diminished. See, now you got me saying it. Okay, so there's a few ways that you can do this, which would make it easier. The first is the usage of mutes with the thumb. So if you're playing G, got this, you can just do one fret down for the F sharp and mute it with the thumb, which then you just use your pinky to anchor on the 3rd fret after that. Lift that entire G chord up here, and you got your C diminished. So G.
Oh, back to the G.
Yeah. Oh, so back to the G. You just have to take the
it was G, F sharp, back to the
back
G.
to G, and then to the diminished. Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean the same thing. I mean they wouldn't even change. So G, F sharp, back to the G, then to diminished. So see like how my fingers aren't even moving, like that much. And the same exact shape is is used for all 3 chords. So it's not too bad. I think you might be overthinking this one. So, but I did say there are multiple ways to do it. So this one right here, and then to maybe this F sharp. If you're playing low G, which I know you do, and you want that low G and involved in there, and you don't want to cut it out. You're like, man, I paid lots of money for this low G string. I want people to hear it. So G, and then use that pointer finger to bar, and then see how these 2 fingers. All they're gonna do is just go up. See, so from G, pay attention to my 2 middle fingers here. They're just gonna go up like this, while my pointer finger bars the chord for F sharp. Which then you go back to G if that's the chord.
Or you could
progression.
bar the G.
Yeah.
All right, you can just move the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, my reasoning is going from here to the C diminished, which would use the same G chord shape.
If you
but then from the bar, you could
Yeah.
use your pointer finger as an anchor to the.
Oh yeah, that works too. And then to
Yeah.
that. But then so there's
Multiple
ways that you can do
Yeah.
it and stuff like that's I would go there. Aaron's a natural low G user, where I'm like a high
that's
G.
the
I'm
first
like
thing
it
that I
doesn't
do. Yeah.
So but yeah, the first thing that came to my mind is like, yeah, just mute the G. It's fine. You don't even need it.
I think that's a pretty common
Yeah.
chord change too with the guitar. Yeah, like that kind of shapes is you just use a bar
Yeah,
for
use a
everything,
bar.
and
Right,
you just
right.
kind of add your pinky. So
Yeah, so you could do that with the first chord. You could just bar the first chord, go back here, and like Aaron said, use the pointer finger to anchor to get to your diminished chord. So there's multiple ways you can kind of go about it. But those are just some. I'm sure you can figure out a couple more, but you don't really have to. I think with those that should be good enough. Yeah, and that,
You get
Yeah.
options now.
yeah. Now you have options, right, Kahai? So you can either go long hair or short hair, right?
Yeah.
Dude, it looks awesome. Let me tell you, it just now I can't stop looking at it. It's just
Yeah.
you got your ears lowered.
yeah, Jim said he wasn't using any of those I guess ways to hold the diminished chord.
Yeah.
So yeah,
How are you doing the diminished chord?
He was doing it with the so he would from the G
Uh-huh.
he would flip his fingers around and then use his thumb.
Oh, well, that's awkward. Yeah. So maybe you just refrain from using that diminished chord. Don't think I've ever used that.
Yeah. So
Diminished
just move
chord.
everything up one string and then put down the pinky.
Yeah. Which website were you looking at, Jim? Were you no?
Dr. Yuke, I think.
When you're learning these.
Was it?
I like to pick on because I know he can take it, and he picks
Yeah.
on us too. I love you, Jim.
Yeah. Was it Benny who said you have to have multiple ways
Yeah,
to hold the
that's
same
true.
chord?
You're absolutely right. Yeah, kind of know how to hold it in different ways.
Yep.
Yeah, so there you go. Now you have options. All right, next up, Kahai. Hey, did you catch my Doug reference? Aaron did. Aaron got my Doug reference. You
sorry.
feel me?
Maybe I'll catch it and I'll put it up on the
Yeah.
show notes and stuff.
There you go.
Okay.
It's a Doug reference in there.
Yeah, and then I think that's all the questions we have so
Okay,
far.
cool.
People can send in more, but
Yeah.
we also had Kathy send in a student review, so maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, she sent this before, because I just remembered after watching and after sitting down after watching, that she said just disregard that video because we met after she sent that video for a lesson and she played it for me during the lesson. But I can still give you some pointers and stuff. I think it looks I think the arrangement looks good. It's like an original song I believe that she did and she arranged and she plays with with a group that backs her up. But for this particular one, she said she wanted to kind of see if she could do it by herself and she wanted to add like an instrumental in there, or like a little break and stuff in the middle, and how can she do that with with just by herself. So I suggested kind of playing the chords, because the song's kind of bouncy, so you want to keep the same bounce, and that's kind of what you normally run into when you're playing by yourself, is how do you keep that groove going and pick at the same time? Because as soon as you stop strumming and do some picking and stuff, that groove is going to be gone. So what I told her is, don't lose the groove, just keep strumming it. Maybe strum, keep the same strumming that you're doing, but add some extensions to the chords. So for F, she added this A string 3rd fret. She could also add the 5th fret if she wants to. She can add the 1st fret, 3rd fret. So you can pick and strum. You can do some, pick strumming, pluck strumming, whatever it may be, however you want to call it. And then what you can do is, you're not limited to just these notes, because you can add inversions. So the F also exists here. So if you want to add that, different notes to the song without losing groove, you can do that as well. B flat, there's another B flat here, there's another one up here. So there's many ways that you can add notes to your strumming and kind of create a small little instrumental. So she just did a nice simple F into the B flat, or whatever it may be. I don't exactly remember what it was, but I know, we talked about inversions and adding things here and there, and going from the higher inversion, trying to work your way down, not to make it too sudden. I was going to say subtle. I was like, that's not subtle. Subtle's not the word. You want it to be subtle, but not too sudden where you're like up here. So for example, if you do something like, and then you go back down to down here, it just doesn't sound as good. Yeah, it's a little jarring going from up here to down here. So make sure you kind of work your way back down. I thought she did a good job. I thought the instrumental was nice and simple, because that's another thing too. If the song is simple to begin with, you don't want to add like a super duper complicated instrumental in there, because it just doesn't match with what the vibe of the song was trying to do, right? So I'll keep all those things in mind. But I thought it was great. I have now seen this song from from the beginning, and now seeing what it sounds like, I'm proud of you. Good job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I dig it. I dig it, Kahai.
Yeah. So
Can you dig it?
Kathy said she mentioned that she couldn't hold the C string with the F on the 8th fret yet. So I'm guessing it's for like one of those inversions. So she just kept the original chords for a certain part.
Yeah, it sounds fine.
Yeah.
Sounds fine.
And she also mentioned that she used a compressor on the uke for the first time, and a bit of reverb on the vocals. And yeah, sounds pretty good.
Sounds good. That sounds good. Like, you don't want to overdo the compressor, which you didn't. It sounds great. It was good. Excuse me. Ice cream once again coming up. Note to self: no ice cream for the show, because now I feel like here in Hawaii we call it gullah gullahs in my throat. It's all that milk, guy.
Yeah.
Can't they make ice cream without milk?
Someone should do that.
Someone should do that. It's a $1 billion idea.
Think about all the Asians, right? Like, can't handle milk.
Yeah. All lactose intolerant.
Yeah.
Never mind. I remember going to Italy, and in Italy everything's like got cheese and butter and things like that. So it's everything, like dairies and everything. And my wife is lactose intolerant, and I was like, okay, well, you got to be careful, because everything's there. It's like, nope. She brought like an entire box of like lactate or whatever. Brought an entire box of lactate. Yeah, I remember
holding me back.
Yeah, she was like, nope, gonna eat everything, everything that I can. Like, I don't know when the next time I'll be in Italy, but here it is, just an entire box. I don't care what the repercussions are later. I'm gonna eat as much as possible. Like, right on. Please get your protection. It's all good.
Yeah, when I got my haircut, before I got my haircut, I got a milkshake.
Yeah.
My mom was like, "Oh, what about your lactose intolerance?" Right? And I'm like, I guess it's gonna be a roll of the dice. We'll see what happens. Sometimes.
So it's not a guarantee with you. Like, sometimes you can have.
Yeah, yeah, and it kind of depends on the food too. So, I mean, better safe than sorry. But
Yeah.
that day I didn't have my lactate, so I was, yep, we'll just see.
Now that I'm older, I didn't know you could get it. I didn't know you could become lactose intolerant. Like I just, I could finish the day, drink a gallon of milk, and it'd be all right. But now, like that's not the case anymore. Like I remember, because I don't know, like when something's delicious, like I just scarf it down. I have no boundaries and no shame actually. Like so, I remember one time being on Oahu, and this might be a little bit much, but I was on Oahu.
TMI.
Yeah, but whatever. It's my podcast. We were at Alamana, went to Haagen-Dazs, and I don't know, like their ice cream is just so good. And so I had like the shake, and yeah, let's just say it was a very uncomfortable bus ride going back to my apartment. There's lots of mad. Can this driver go faster? Like a lot of that. A lot of people are like, man, I don't want to sit next to that guy. He seems to be shifting a little too much.
You have to watch the informational video about your changing body.
Yeah.
As you grow older.
I thought I was invincible when I was living on Oahu. I was like in my 20s still, but it was a good time. It was a good time. It was I would 10 out of 10 would do again. Would maybe catch a cab next time though, Would drink again. I don't even care.
It's your problem now, Uber driver.
Yeah, he's
I love when I'm staying with my sister, guys.
Right.
Like my sister will be like, "Okay, Kahai, take your lactate pills now because we're gonna go get pizza pretty soon." She just like gives me the heads up, like, "Oh, you're gonna eat cheese or you're gonna drink milk, so you better take it now." Like, okay.
You eat pizza with milk?
No.
Oh,
It's just like
what is this?
yeah. If we eat anything, my sister will just give me the heads up, like, okay, tonight is pizza night, so you better take your lactate, Kai. I'm like, okay, I'm ready.
Yeah,
Yep.
I don't think there's lots of things that milk doesn't match with. I think pizza is one of them. Like, I don't know if I would eat pizza and anything greasy milk.
Have you seen
Heavy and greasy,
Home Alone? Isn't that like the milk spills onto the pizza and he ruins the whole pizza night at the start of the movie?
There you go.
Yep.
All right, do we have questions? See, so this is what happens. We go off on a tangent and we check again. It's like, oh, does people need our help or what? Or can we just
Yes.
talk about pizza?
I kind of wanted to go back to Kathy's thing.
Okay.
And I think, Kathy's recording sounds really good. And I was telling Aaron, like, her songwriting is pretty solid where, we don't have to tell her, like, kind of the basics of make sure you have a melody and then make sure that your chords are solid before you try to do anything crazy.
Yeah.
She already has, like, the basics for that stuff. So something that this is like, it's already getting to the point where it's like nitpicking and it's kind of more a stylistic choice. But I would suggest that she might look into EQ now because her ukulele and her singing kind of inhabit the same space in EQ. So that's where if she's recording her ukulele like in one take and then singing in another take, then she can kind of EQ it to make sure that they're not overlapping, right? And
especially if she's compressing it too, and they occupy the same space.
So that's just
Heads up.
something to just throw on your track and try and play around with. And even that, right? Like everybody kind of has like a different taste for EQ. So like try and see what works for you or what you enjoy. So
Well, I was gonna say, how would you do it, Kahai? Like, how would you EQ that? Like, say she came into your recording studio and you were the engineer, and she gave you that raw take, and now you just EQ it. How would you do it?
I would take off a little bit of the high end and mid
On what?
treb
On her vocals or ukulele?
on her ukulele because I think she's inhabiting that space with her vocals.
Yes.
And then so I'd kind of boost up the low end and the mids more on her ukulele. So it's like pretty close already. And it's kind of hard because she doesn't have like a bass guitar or like a regular guitar to fill up the extra vocal space. But just kind of like how I imagine it is like her and the ukulele are kind of like overlapping. So I kind of just want to nudge either of them, the ukulele more towards the bass and her like not necessarily more towards treble, but having her kind of like offset just a little bit so it comes out a little bit more clear. But you definitely, it's not a 1-for-1 thing, and it's not guaranteed, so you got to play around with it.
Yeah, I mean, like the ukulele, I've always loved adding more mids, especially mids, like mids and no, not highs, but mids and lows. Like I almost like turn the highs all the way down. There's some performances where I would just turn that stuff all the way down, where it's zero highs. I don't suggest that with with everything or with every show. It just depends on on the what you call the mixer that that you plug into, or the amp that you plug into, or whoever you're working with. But in this case, for me, I would turn up the mids and the lows, more mids than lows though, on that ukulele. Turn down the highs and turn up the highs on your vocals, and that should be good.
Yeah. And I think her reverb, talking about, she added reverb to her vocals. She did the good thing of not adding too much reverb, where it sounds like,
super wet in a cave.
Yeah, in a cave or in an opera house, right? It's like, where are you singing this? But at the same time, if she's looking at adding reverb to just her vocals, I might suggest adding reverb also to her just a tiny bit, or like either doing that or kind of having everything together, and on the master track putting a little bit of reverb to tie in and everything together too.
Yeah, well, because reverb is supposed to emulate a room that you're in, because if you just record yourself through a microphone, or especially through like plug-in and stuff, if you plug your ukulele in, it'll just be super duper dry. And what that means is it's just taking whatever signal that you're giving it. It doesn't take the the ambiance of the room. So you're trying to create a room using reverb. So if you put reverb on just your vocals, it's kind of like your ukulele is in a different room and you are in one room. That's what it's gonna sound like. So you want it to, like Kahai said, if you put it on the master track, which would mean like everything that you recorded in that track is in the same exact room, which makes sense.
And you can play around with that.
Yeah,
too.
of course. Of course. Some need more than others.
Reverb is definitely like another like kind of spice that you gotta play to your taste.
I feel like reverb is the salt, where like everything could use a little bit of reverb. Like, salt is the first thing you add, like maybe EQ would be like that. Reverb would be pepper.
I kind of like in that analogy, I would say it's like, even when you're layering different takes, and different instruments and stuff, you add a little bit of reverb to everything. But then when you also put it together all in the big pot, right, you kind of have to like homogenize everything. So that's where adding reverb on the master track really helps. Yeah.
So that's, some some engineer advice from the Ukulele Underground engineers here.
I know
music engineers. No way are we engineers.
I know.
Degrees to back that.
No. We were just talking, me and Aaron, and I was like, I wish Kyle was here so I could just get him to listen to the mix, because I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just turning knobs, and I'm just like, I hope this works, Well, I hope I get the mix right. Yeah. But
he went to school, Kyle.
That's why. Like, it would be great. But I think even like telling her all of these things, it can sound scary. But something that she can do, like, when you're playing around with these things, really play around. Like, I would never put 100% wet on, a reverb, but just turn it to 100% and then like crank it down until where you're like, I kind of like that. Or turn it to like 100% dry and then slowly start turning it back up to wet. So you can play with these settings. And then if you, the thing I always ask myself is does this sound better than the original? And if it gets to a point where I'm adding stuff, but it doesn't sound better than the original, then I tone it back down, right? But
what if you're Billy Joel and you're having a heart attack?
You just
100% wet.
Does that knob go to 10? Okay, that's good. Now crank it to 11. Just push it a little bit more.
You have to put the clip of that song down. For people that, I mean, everyone knows what I'm talking about, right? Everyone listens to Billy Joel.
Yeah, and that is a thing, right? Like
Special version of that.
we're giving tips that kind of work in general, but of course, like there's songs that are exceptions where you do crank it to 11 or you do whatever. So
Definitely.
you got to find what works for you. Kristen Sue asked, what does compression do on a recording? Where should you use it?
What compression does on a recording, it's it's in the name where it just kind of compresses. So like the waves, if you ever looked at an audio file, the waves kind of go all over the place, right? So all what that does is just compresses it so that it takes off like the top end and the bottom end, making sure that everything is just compressed. It just makes it cleaner, really. That's it. You're just compressing all that sound into whatever hertz that you need it to occupy.
Yep.
Yeah.
You kind of, the way that I heard it explained is like you're taking something and you're squashing it so it fits a little bit better.
Yeah.
And
it's
so
like this. So you don't want it to go like this. Maybe you want like just nice fine lines, but just it's like
within
within
a band
within this right
sound,
here.
yeah.
So instead of it going like this, where like it's all over the place, you want it to like kind of go like this, where it's just in this tiny space.
Or it can also like if your waves are like too small, right? Like for certain parts, it can also kind of expand it a little bit too. So it makes certain parts bigger and it can make certain parts smaller to where they're more uniform. And and it does work. It's good in that sense, but then that's also why you don't want to put too much compression, because then people, or it's up to flavor, but it's like it'll sound like everything is monotone almost, like there's no dynamic range. So
it's kind of cool because like a lot of music in the past maybe 20-30 years and stuff have used more and more compression like as time goes on. But if you listen to like old like recordings and stuff, and that's why like the volume isn't as as equal, because nothing is compressed, or only little things are compressed, or they can only compress so much, or whatever the problem may have been. You can kind of hear the difference between no compressors and compressors by just listening to like a modern song versus a song done like way back in the past, maybe 60s, 50s.
When they first started recording stuff to wax wheels, they had to have the band play it like as loud as they could, because it was so hard just to get any sound to record to the wax wheel. So when you listen to that kind of stuff too, it's like it's all it's like, wow, you can hear it, but it kind of all sounds like, oh, it's all blown out because they're just like screeching into that horn.
I think it was my my second album, like Tracy actually, like, he told me, like, let's try to record this in a different way where we don't use compressors. I'm like, well, what do you mean? Because that was my first time in like a professional studio. I didn't even know what compressors were. I'm like, yeah, let's do that, Trey. let's go do that. And
you're the producer.
And the way he explained it to me is just like, well, you're kind of a dynamic player, that I feel like if we compressed you, we don't get as much of the dynamic stuff that you're doing. We can put a little compressor, but to put like a normal amount of compressor just kind of takes away from from the dynamics of your playing. I was like, okay, well, whatever. If you feel like if you feel like we should do that. And then it was it sounded pretty raw, like the end product. But when we gave it to Bob Katz to master, that's like when the magic happened. Like during the mastering, that's like when things kind of came together, and all our hard work of like not compressing but playing a certain way so it doesn't peak or it doesn't doesn't get too low. That was kind of tough, like going from being on stage and playing as loud as possible, and to like a really controlled attacks and very like mindful dynamics on playing. And then, but the end results, if you listen to the to the album and listen to like how warm everything kind of sounds, it was worth it. So good.
So when you went from, did you guys have to record differently? Like if you're playing a super loud part and then in the song it naturally goes to quiet, like you're quiet playing, did you guys?
Yeah, it's the control on attack and stuff. If I know that there's going to be like a hard, like a tremolo picking part or a hard like fast strumming part, we would position the microphones differently, or would hit the the strum a little bit differently. And that's kind of what what I regretted, like when I did my third album, which is Bandito Tyler, because I don't know, I had Calais convince me that that gel nails were cool. Like, so I had gel nails, gel nails. And I'm like, oh yeah, cool. I'm gonna record, and I'm gonna record my album in just like a couple weeks. So maybe I'll get my gel nails like next week. And then, but it was just such a disaster because like you hear this clackety clack, and Ariki, the engineer and producer, he was just like, I don't know how I can like gate that or noise, noise gate it or whatever so that you don't hear it. I'm trying my best, but we're losing a lot, Aldrine. I'm like, I'm sorry if I ripped all these off now, we're gonna have to like postpone this for like another couple months so that they grow back out because so yeah, we just
That's
did
like
it with
in
it.
running. They say never do anything different on race day. It's like the same thing. Right?
Yeah, I guess so.
You went for the actual thing and you use something totally different that you never use.
Well, the thing is like the way that Clay does, he only gets just the thumb. Like I'm like, nah, just do the whole nails. I do all these, these whatever. So like I went all in. I had all all my nails all gelled up and stuff, and it was just it was easy to play. Like super easy, and all my rolls sounded good, but it was just like this was just all the noise that you could hear in that album. We tried to get rid of it as much as possible. I tried to play different so that that you couldn't hear that, but it was just one of those things that like, man, like the second album, third album were just night and day as far as tone goes, and it's not Ariki's fault. It's it's really mine. But then again, like Ariki, like, I'm kind of his experimental like ukulele player to produce because he doesn't normally produce uke players. Whereas Trey has worked with guys like Jake Shimabukuro, where he really knows like how these how to present the ukulele in a recorded form. So
it was I'm a Dreamer. That album was
it was by Trey.
Dr.
Yeah,
Trey.
and then so that's why like when you listen to what's that song called? Your Only Mine or Your Mine or something? Only Mine, the song that I wrote for my wife. Just hearing that like that first hit of the cymbals on the drums, you hear the warmness already. You're like, oh man! And then like and then the first like ukulele line comes in. You're like, how is that so warm? Like, and then fast forward to like the third album, I have like a beautiful, like soft and very mellow and very warm tone, and I'm like, that sounded okay, like it sounded good but it's doesn't have that like oh crap, well, with a lack of a better term, it was just holy crap moment. Like that sounded. That's not just me, but that was a collaborative effort between myself, Trey, and Mr. Katz, the master.
That's kind of like going back to it, like some people might hear, like we talked about putting compressor and reverb on, right? And then they might be like, well, why don't you just when you record, why don't you make sure that you record at this level, or if you're gonna add reverb anyways, why not just record in a place that has like that natural reverberation in the room space, right?
Yeah, that's true.
And it's like, yeah, if you can do that, right? But like you're saying, right, when you record something loud and when you record something soft, you have to move the microphones back and forth, right? So that's where it's like they might just be like, we just want to keep the mic right here, and we kind of like want to get consistent. And then we'll add the compressor on just to make sure it kind of like evens out all the times that it might have been too loud or too soft. So it's a tool to use. It's not necessarily like the way that you should use it every time, but it's just sometimes you gotta just throw it on. So
yeah, good stuff. For those people, I mean, we've had Tracy on the podcast. People are wondering who Bob Katz is. He's the guy who wrote the book on mastering. Like he's the mastering guy. Like when Trey's like, okay, well, I know a guy who can master it really well. He's gonna be pricey, but he's like the best. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know, sure, whatever. Like, how much does it cost? So we went to it, and it's just like, whew, worth every penny.
Yeah.
He also mastered Bandito Tyler, that album, but you can just tell that there's a difference between the two. Yeah. So he's same guy who mastered it, just different engineer.
You can only work
Yeah.
with what you
Right,
get.
and like I said, it's not Ariki's fault. He did his
Yeah.
best, and like I said, I'm kind of his experimental. Like, okay, cool, let's record an instrumental album. Then I guess I'll see how this goes. I'll work to my best ability, and he was great. The difference though between the two is that I'm not saying that that the like Sean Carroll, who I hired, as the drummer for I'm a Dreamer, is I'm not saying that he wasn't as good on the drums, because the drums were definitely better on Bandito Tyler, but Sean Carroll played the drums like how you're supposed to play recorded drums. Like, you're not supposed to add all these whatever, get fancy with it, but because going back to what Trey said, like talking about being a dynamic player, I wanted dynamics in the drums too. I wanted dynamics in the whole thing. Like, I wanted it to seem like a live show, but Sean Carroll, he's very tasteful in the way that he plays drums, because I have no doubt he can rip some drums.
Yeah.
But like the way that he played it was very much like how you're supposed to record drums,
If you're
proper studio.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
Studio drummer. Yeah.
Because if you're a studio musician, right, like you go in and they ask you to play something and you play it, and you're waiting for them to tell you like, oh, why don't you like add a little bit more to it, or why don't you, so if nobody says it, you're just gonna be like, I'm just gonna play the music that I know I'm supposed to play.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Well, enough about this. This is interesting. I mean, like, since you guys brought up the whole recording and reverb and compressor and stuff, I just wanted to tell you guys about my experiences in that.
Yeah. Before we move away, can you explain what mastering is for people who don't know?
Ooh, see, that is a much bigger beast than I do know, because at least compressor, like, I can kind of explain, but mastering, because I don't do it, like I don't exactly know how it works, but really it's kind of like opening up the track, and I don't quite know how to explain it better than that, but it's kind of like pushing all the buttons in as high as it goes, without without peaking, without like compromising any of the integrity of the sound. So then making sure that everything should be to its full volume as it needs to, and everything is opened up. That's what they say about, like, it opens up the track and stuff. But I have no idea. That's why those guys get paid the big bucks, because I don't know how to do that.
If
basically make the song sound as good as possible.
Yeah, it's basically like the last step before it's like CD ready, or like before it's radio ready, Yeah.
If if you know about like photography and stuff, right? Like you can have a photographer who takes a really good picture, right? And then they'll take there can be like a image editor, or like somebody who works with Photoshop. You give it to them, and then they'll just make it like even more, it's like, whoa, this outstanding, it's like, oh, it takes it from just like what you would think of if it's just like a normal picture, or like this is true to life. And then this just makes everything blow out.
That's the best way to do it. Like, the reds are redder. The blues are bluer. That's best way to explain it. I'm like, how to explain this? Because I don't know how how it works. It just sounds magically good after I get it back. Like,
so what we kind of told Kathy, with like thinking about EQ. The person who does mastering really thinks about those things, like where does each instrument and where does each level of this song, where does it lie in the track, and how can I bring it out, or how can I like kind of tamper it down to make it equal with everything else?
Yeah, because that was the tricky part, because if you send something to mastering that's already been kind of compressed, it's a lot easier on their job, like to make sure that nothing peaks or nothing gets kind of ruined and stuff. But if you're sending him something where like everything is not or like the ukulele at least wasn't compressed, and he's getting all these things, but he can also do more with it because it's more dynamic. So he's like, okay, cool. Instead of just like this big fat, waveform, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I could do this, and it will sound good.
Do so much to it, because
so it was like super worth it.
We talk about like how there's like a saying where it's like you try to get the best take that you can, right? Because no matter like as much as you can do in post with like fixing things how they sound, you just want it to sound good like when you record it first, and kind of it's just like sprinkling on a little bit extra seasoning and making it a little bit finer. So
yeah, I would like to learn how, but apparently that's like a completely different beast.
Yeah.
Like I just like started getting confident with mixing, you know, like and EQing and stuff, but that's a completely different beast, I heard. Like, so if someone like Trey, who's been recording people since the 90s, he's like, I don't want to master it. It's like,
I send that out.
Yeah, I send that out to someone else to do it,
because
that's what they do, you know.
And you can get programs now to like kind of pseudo, master in programs, but I think you really need the studio equipment, right? Like to really find details and kind of get into
Worth every penny. Would do 10 out of 10. Would do again. Just like the ice cream. Like the Haagen-Dazs milkshake.
You can master the way that I master, where I just put a mastering compressor on the master track.
Just press the button. Oh, guess it's mastered now.
That's what it said, right?
Why is Aldrine paying Bobcat so much money? Just give it to me next time. Give me the money instead.
Why would they put that setting in Ableton if they didn't want me to use it? Okay.
Yeah.
Suhewa asked, how would you practice to master your fingerpicking and strumming for flamenco style?
I mean, much like how you'd practice for anything, really. You know, like it's just doing whatever it is that you want to get better at over and over, slow and then fast. Making sure that you get the technique correct. So it's not too different from, say, practicing and mastering like playing blues or playing jazz and stuff. You kind of just have to understand the elements of what makes it work. So for example, flamenco, what are the elements for flamenco? Rhythm, like maybe note choices, maybe the different scales that they might use, maybe the different chord families that they might use. So kind of look at all those things and what kind of techniques that you need. So rasquedos or golpes, things like that. So when you look at all those things, if you want to get better, figure out what you kind of need to work on and what kind of flamenco artist that you want to do, because flamenco, just because it's generalized as one genre, it doesn't mean that it's not also there's also subgenres of that one genre. So there's like different styles that you can play flamenco wise. So it's a lot of it's a lot of that, but for the most part, it's just taking what all the elements that you need to practice and just do it slow, then get faster.
Yeah, I think you can kind of look at it like learning a language, right?
Yeah,
like when you try to speak a different type of language, you really got to listen to how people are saying things, right, pronouncing things and stuff. So just if you really want to get into flamenco, just start listening to as much flamenco music as you can, right? And picking out like you said, what really makes the music special, what's really true to that music. So
and with any technique, it's just you're just hearing what you hear and then trying to replicate that in whatever way it makes sense to you.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say it to, to take whatever you're going to you want to master, you want to be good at or whatever, and just immerse yourself in it. That's one thing that you can do also. Listen to flamenco artists, watch flamenco artists, and just really immerse yourself in it. If you're listening to it, if you're watching it, if you're playing it in your car or whatever, you should be able to at least understand the essential elements needed to play that genre. At least if you listen to great people that play it, Paco de Lucia, Otmar Liebert, Gypsy Kings, whoever it may be. If you want to play flamenco really well, look, or Sabicas, there's all these great flamenco artists that you could check out. Immerse yourself in and watch those guys play. Watch Paco de Lucia just completely tear it up. That guy's the man. He's my favorite flamenco player. So if there's just one that you want to listen to, it would be Paco de Lucia. My number 2 would be Sabicas.
Yep.
Sabicas.
Yeah. Kind of tying it back to Jim's question too.
Yes.
It's and really pay attention to details, because if you're watching a video and you see them playing a certain way, they're probably holding, chords or holding shapes or doing things for a reason. So, just try and like replicate them, and you probably figure out like, oh, they're doing it this because it moves better from here to here, or I can feel the rhythm better this way. There's always like little details that, like Jim said, like, oh, I've never tried holding the chord that way, but it's like, oh, well, it kind of just makes sense if you really think about it. Like, you're already holding G like this, so you might as well hold the diminished chord like this too.
Yeah.
Like,
so it flows from one to the other.
Yeah, I think when you're trying to replicate or when you're trying to get into like a style or something, it is in the details that you'll find like I don't know, the important things to learn,
Right. And listening and watching people do it, especially like the best and professionals and stuff, it like you're gonna learn things that you're not gonna learn in a book, or reading it or like watching tutorials or whatever. If you just kind of feel the music and learn by watching others do it, there's just no substitute. Because like, prior to the internet, that's when we learned how to play ukulele, like watching ukulele players like Jake and Alta Jr. and Troy Fernandez, watching them. There's all these little nuances that they do that I still don't know how to explain. Like there's just little things that you pick up on by immersing yourself in whatever it is that you want to learn.
And I think somebody who might not have tried learning like this, they might feel like, oh, I don't even know what to look out for though, or I don't know what to pay attention to. But it's a skill set that if you're trying to like hear the details and watch somebody and like just, like you're looking at their hands and you're really focusing on what they're doing, it's just something that you get better with time. Yeah. Like the more you do it, the better you get at it. And so that's why like when we did the Ukulele Friends podcast with Jake, right? Yeah. Like you guys played, and then afterwards Jake was like, oh man, I love when you did like that kind of parallel octaves kind of thing that you're doing there. Is like
string pull off hammer-ons.
Like, and Jake saw that because he's probably that's like what he's looking for, right? Like he's practiced at looking at other players and other things, and then just trying to like, how would I play that too? So that's a question that like, besides just watching, maybe try and ask yourself, how would I play that? So yeah.
That's like as a teenager, like I was trying to buy as many like DVDs, like music DVDs, because like we didn't have YouTube or anything like that. I'd buy as much music DVDs. Like one of my favorite is like the first G3 DVD, where it's like it was Eric Johnson, Steve Vai, and Joe Satriani. They were like the G3 at the time. The G3 changes, like every now and then, but it's usually Vai and Satriani. Like and the third guy changes. There's a video I saw where Malmsteen was the third guy, and I remember just like watching that DVD until like it just like it's skipping, but it's fine. It'll stop skipping soon. Like just
wore out the videotape. Or,
exactly. Like
or the DVD.
The DVD just wear it out. There's totally off topic, but something that so my wife goes on TikTok a lot. She asked me that question of like, tell me you're old without telling me you're old, right? And I told her, I got one. You need to rewind that thing with a pencil. Or like a younger person wouldn't understand any of that. Yeah. You need to rewind it with a pencil. It's just like, oh, what? That and I told her 10 10 3 2 1. I think I told you guys that. 10 10 3 3 2 1.
Like
understand what that is.
I think
why that would exist.
1-800 collect even,
Yeah.
Now, right? Like you just send, like if you find somebody, it's like you'll send them a link or something, right? I remember my dad being like, "Oh, we'll go to the library, we'll rent movies, and then we have 2 VHS players." So yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
Wave that flag.
I'll just leave it at that.
Wave that Jolly Roger, Kahai.
And then there might have been like some of our relatives who are like, "Oh, I see you have Jurassic Park 1. I have Jurassic Park two,
and a deal was then struck between the two parties.
Well,
so that both have 1 and 2.
No, it's okay because all our VHS tapes were all destroyed. They're all like moldy and gross. So you can't catch me anymore. It's all gone.
Yeah, what do young people know about having the reason for having 2 VCRs? Like, why would you need 2 DVD players or 2 Blu-ray players? You don't. But you need 2 VCRs.
I vaguely remember nights where you hear the whole night, like just the whole night, and because it's like we had two of those. My dad rented movies, 2 of those going, playing the movie and everything, and then also the rewinder. So he would have a stack of movies that were just being, he was kind of rotating through. Yeah.
Good. Wave that flag, Kahai. So, any last minute questions before we go?
I don't think so.
Leave anybody hanging.
Well, Jim mentioned that
cassette tapes.
Yeah, Jim mentioned that another thing that really helps with learning, a style or something, is actually playing with people. So
yeah.
Right now, probably because of the world situation, you might not want to.
Might not be the best thing.
Yeah, but the great kind of alternative, or probably the best alternative, is look for jam tracks on YouTube, and you can just find stuff. Yeah.
If you just search up jam tracks in whatever key that you want to do it in, or whatever genre that you want to do it in, so say like slow rock in G or whatever, you put slow rock in G jam track, like you'll find something. Or
for in his case, flamenco,
flamenco in A minor or whatever jam track, and then you'll be taken to a rhythm track in A minor that you practice your flamenco to.
Yeah, I think
the chords and stuff.
Yeah, and people think that that's only for like soloing and improvising, right? You can use that now.
For rhythm,
learn chords, and you learn blues patterns, right? So you can because if you're soloing with somebody, like pretty much blues patterns are a set of patterns that everybody uses no matter what the song is. So you can just pull it out of your bank, right? If you're playing the backing track for somebody else too.
I kind of want to just do an entire solo show with just jam tracks that I got from YouTube, and just play it at a show, like a bar show, not like a show where people came specifically see me, but say at Rob's or whatever, me playing solo show at Rob's, just press play and just play for an entire hour, 2 hours of just jam tracks, just be jamming out.
The audience would have to sit through the pre-roll ads. I'm so glad that I'm a dasher.
See this? That's a Maserati, but here's also a bunch of books.
And if you write anything on the internet, you have to get Grammarly.
That'll be the best show. I think that'll be the best show.
This is something that I actually kind of want to do, but I was gonna pitch it to you. What if we made our own ukulele tracks to do homework and relax to, or something, like a video like that?
Dude, I would do that if you give me beats and stuff. That would
Lo-fi
be lo-fi beats. I would put some.
Yeah, I wanted to
make $1 million.
And
nobody steal that idea.
Because I was thinking we could do that, and I would even hire an artist to be like, can you draw this guy doing homework, and I'll give them your picture, right? And have it that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm not even joking, Kahai. If you make the beats for me, I will it's. I'm not saying it's super easy or whatever, but it's not hard.
I'm
We've
sure
talked about making an album for Hawaiian Airlines.
It would be
Nobody steal that idea either.
Relatively simple project.
I'm sure we have a friend too who would love to contribute his beats, right, to that type of project too. So if you build it, they will come, which is they meaning me.
What was that? Is that a bird that just whacked your window just now? I think so. All right. Well, it is past our bedtime, guys. So is there any last minute businesses that we should wrap up before we get going, before we head to bed?
I don't think so. I think the thing that's coming out closest, right, is the next song for next month. And then after that is our open mic. And when our soft deadline of when our songs are due. So we'll see. Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? It's just days go by so fast now. You know, I feel like the open mic was just like last week, what it was like 2 weeks ago, and there's only 4 weeks in a month, so it's coming up once again. Open mic first Thursdays of every month, and yeah, so check that out. Of course, we got, you know, we're working on the next month's lesson now. Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Kahai, you put up the, you know, Kisas last week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So if you guys want to learn that, you can learn that as well. There's if you don't want to learn that, there's plenty of other things that you can check out over in UU Plus. We've got Hawaiian songs, we got oldies, we got, you know, like pop songs, whatever, maybe the classic, like jazz, music now, Kahai, you know. So make sure you check that out.
Do we have like what songs would you say to kind of get maybe somebody get their foot in the door with like flamenco? Do we have song tutorials that you can
we have riff of the week. We have like flamenco riffs that are available there. So if you want to get your feet wet and just like learn some flamenco riffs, we have riff of the week.
Yeah.
Which we no longer do. So I guess riff of however many weeks that it went for.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah. All right, guys, have a great one. We'll see you folks tomorrow for Aloha Friday Live Jam. Make sure to check out all our things. Go to YouTube. Check out Ukulele on the Ground on YouTube. Check out or Ukulele Play-Alongs on YouTube as well. Make sure to subscribe to that because that's where the next play-along for the lesson is going to be. Check out UU Plus. Make sure you sign up for UU Plus to take your ukulele playing to the next level. Have a great one. Aloha.